you brought up something during the consideration phase that I want to bring an attention to people, that it's during that critical phase of consideration that I think a lot of people, want to really put out their product benefits and attributes. But on top of that, you need to be very careful about what is your brand's promise. What are you promising, to people? What are you delivering? And so you really need to deepen that relationship from the top of the sales funnel, the awareness phase, to go a little bit deeper to give them a little bit of an idea of, what your company's, culture is like, and how your product fits and adds value to their life on top of the attributes. And I think a lot of companies can kind of fail in that tricky, period, because that will help drive your customer further down towards the sales funnel, towards a purchase. So just be very mindful, of that, that as well. But Jay, I was wondering, because again, we had the conversation, and this seems to be like your wheelhouse. So I was wondering what you would want to add in regards to, the sales funnel, and talking about, the different brand elements throughout the sales funnel as well.
Sure. I mean, that's the funnel is one of the best and most basic business metaphors. You want to fill the top with your prospects,
right?
And obviously your customers come out the bottom. And that there's depending on whether you're a business to business or business to consumer, there's a one-way or a two-way evaluation every step of the way down the funnel. What you don't want is to have prospects going back up the funnel, saying like, yeah, I checked these guys out. They are not what they say they are. They are not the low-cost provider. They're not providing best-in-breed customer service. That's a disaster. I work in a business-to-business model currently, and it's more of a two-way evaluation, where you build credibility, where not only are our prospects evaluating the service that we provide, but we're evaluating our prospects saying, can we really help these people? And does it go to our credibility? We've got social media presence, and we've got all of these hooks, baited hooks in the water to bring prospects in, but you don't always bring in a proper qualified opportunity. And sometimes the best thing to do is to look the prospect in the eye and say, you know what, I don't think we're for you. For whatever reason, it would take too long. I sell a service, we sell software. It would take too long to implement. We don't really solve the problems you're looking to solve. Now you're building credibility by saying, don't get me wrong, we're looking for customers, but I don't think our solution's for you. And that's a win-win, because they're not getting what they want, and we're getting a nightmare. We're getting something that costs too much to implement. It's going to be a nightmare to maintain. They're not going to be happy. So when people are going, when prospects are going down the funnel in the business-to-business world, it's a two-way evaluation process, and you have to be careful not to say, oh my God, we need business, we need customers, we got to make payroll, we got anything at any cost. I know we've got accountants in the room. I'm sure you go through the same thing, which is like, we're very good at what we do, but I don't think we solve your problem, and that really goes to credibility. And then when the customer does come out the other end of the funnel, and you've properly qualified them as a prospect, you're now very well positioned to retain them, because you're able to deliver on your promise. You're solving their problem. You're relieving their pain points. And then when they call with a question, you actually have the answer to it.
Right. So is your sales and marketing force coordinated in unison about your different brands?
It is. It has to be. And
Yeah.
it's funny, you and I had the conversation because the way you phrased the question was, how does your brand proposition inform the sales funnel, the sales process? And I asked you, like, what's that verb mean? Inform. How does it affect? How does it impact? And you said no. You stuck with it and said, how does it inform? And you're right. You were absolutely right. Which is, how do you translate the brand that you've cooked up in all of those meetings, where you had all that other stuff to do, but you locked yourself in a room and said, this is what we stand for. This is the value we want to provide. This is who we are. How do you translate that to your sales force and say, guys, we're not looking for just any customer. We're looking for customers that we can satisfy. It's more of a business-to-business issue than business to consumer. If you're selling widgets, hey, buy my widgets. It's not like, it's different. But in the business to business world, your brand identity does have to inform your sales force and does have to inform those in your funnel that said, this is what we are, this is what we do, this is what we don't do. It was a well-formed question, and I thought a lot about it.
Well, thank you. Because what I see, because I think there's a disconnect between marketing and sales, and we talked about this, Stephen. And I think it's very important for your sales force to really understand what your brand is all about, what your value proposition, is, and then also what your positioning is, and so that when they're talking to potential customers and they're deepening that relationship, not only just telling and relaying the brand attributes and the product features alongside of it, they're really in unison. They kind of go together, so it really deepens the layer of building that trust and relationship. So it really gets them to the sale much quicker. And so when they have that consistent experience, and once they come out the other side, and you're reinforcing your brand promise, and you're building a community around your product and your brand, it really gives them something to motivate them to, pass it on to a friend. So the question is,
How can you get away with bad customer service? And the short answer is because it's cheap and because you can. That we've all, how many times has everyone in this room been told, your call is important to us? That's a nice way of saying something else. And I'm not being flip, but it's, good customer service is expensive. I've run call centers, I've run customer service. It's expensive. And we touched on it, the disconnect between the brand mission, which is we're going to provide excellent customer service, and the reality of the investment that's necessary to provide good customer service. There's just a disconnect there. You've got.
So they get away with it because nobody can really, most people can't do it well.
Well, I also think that collectively the bar has been lowered. We've been asked about who provide, who are good examples. I mean, I defy probably giving away my age. LL Bean, if you buy clothes through the mail, their branding. I don't even know what their branding mission is, but I can tell you what they've accomplished. They sell good stuff. They stand by it. They guarantee it for life, and they pick up the phone when you call. If you have a problem, they ship you a replacement. It's expensive as hell to do it. They have to staff to 110% of their forecast call volume to answer every call. And if I did that when I ran a call center, I probably would have been fired. We staffed to 85% of our forecast call volume, and we took 5,000 calls a day because we could.
I think part of the answer is implied in your question, right? Maybe you're aware of it or not. When you say get away with, that is like, yes, that's the minimum standard that help you survive until someone disrupt you. And there's a difference between get away with and building a brand that really is sustainable. In 2005, when P&G bought Gillette at $57 billion, guess how much of that $57 billion is for the brand Gillette? Right. Any guess in the room? Give me a number.
80% probably.
24 billion out of $57 billion were accounting-wise put on the book for the intangible value of Gillette. So yes, you can totally get away with it. Of course, again, the caveat is until the next simple comes to disrupt you. But then if you really want to build your brand in Jim Collins' word, if you want to build it to last or build it to exit at billions of dollars, as Lucien put it, you can do a lot. You can change the paradigm through branding. It's very fast. All you take is vision, courage, and some investment upfront.
I think I'd like to add to that. I think it's hard to measure. I think it's almost like an absent thing. Like until it really hits you negatively, it's hard to measure the value of putting a lot of money and resources into brand. So I think the decisions are made on operational, profitability. I mean, that's why they only staff up to 85%. They're looking at profits. And they don't realize the long-term effect of really good brand and brand management that's going to buy them. So I think, companies like Amazon, when you buy something on Amazon, it's low cost. You say, I want to ship it back, they're like, keep it. Because it costs more to ship it back than to keep it.
Take the call.
Then take the call. They're very good. They're stellar in their support, and they get it. They understand their buyer. So
you can get away with bad service in an environment of scarcity. But the dynamic is in the midst of shifting. There's information. It's competitive. Amazon and everything else has made, has completely changed it. And just wait until all the kids, and I say kids, but like wait until everyone under 30 who currently only watches TV on their computer anyways, grows up and has their kids, and then let's see how rude Time Warner is and how rude Comcast is. It's going to change. We're just in the middle of it. It's tough to see it.
Yeah.
But if you think about now, some of the remarkable experiences you've had from customer service, excluding unfortunately the local store experience, which was human and the best, and unfortunately probably a thing of the past. But Amazon and Zappos and all these other places that just cool. We work for you. And it's going to change. It's in the process of changing.
And to pick up on that, if I may, and there's a strong correlation between that experience online and going to Sears, which is done, and Kmart, which is done, and Taylor, which is done, and every mall in the country, which is done. It's the experience. There's just such it just doesn't compare. To go walk into any store and say, I don't like it, you'll hit with this barrage of why not, no, I didn't like it. And there's a tension there, right, from the salesperson who's just like, and then you got to call the manager and get a thing, you have to sign it, you have to do all these things. You go on Amazon, these socks are too small, give them to your cat, when it's cold outside. So we're really sort of at this inflection point where, again, branding, and you're seeing it across multiple categories. You're seeing airlines now, you have to be ready to handle what's coming if there's a situation where your customer service is lacking or you're beating people up on airplanes. You have to be ready for that hit.
Someone's going to buy Sears for the brand value alone.
The
Operation is worth nothing.
Absolutely.
But the name is the only thing that's retained. And Spiegel is a great example. Coldwater Creek. These are companies that flamed out, crashed, and burned, but got bought just because the only thing of value left was the brand.
Exactly. That's a great example. And you're seeing it, in that industry, which I work with quite a bit. Hudson's Bay, same thing with Saks. They're up in Canada. They're hanging out, and they're seeing an opportunity to sort of buy one of the great icons of fashion and keep it to do other, who knows what with it. But, they're buying the brand and not necessarily, the inventory or any of those things. That's really what they're after. That doesn't have any value. You only get so many cashmere V-necks out there. So, cashmere V-necks. But, there's something, what's that?
How many is too many?
Cashmere V-necks? I'd say between 8 to 12.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's sort of what's happening. I think that's where branding comes into play. And I think a lot more companies, big and small, are realizing that it is with branding that you're able to stay relevant, that you're able to share a message that makes sense given the different ebbs and flows of culture, technology, et cetera, et cetera. You have to be ready for everything, and a strong value framework that allows the kind of elasticity that you need to adapt to changing times is what branding affords you, effective branding affords you.